Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour on this Thursday. I'm Joe Jaquin, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. Make it part of your daily routine because we're about educating, right? It's one thing to know, hey, I know I need to have gold and silver in my portfolio. I know that. I can see that. I'm not an idiot, right? I see the debts. I see the division in America. I'm getting ready for the riots to come to a city near you, and as we watch our elected officials and just the graph that is out there, whether it's the Hunter Biden thing, of course, that doesn't shock any of us, does it? Does it really shock any of us? Oh, hey, I made millions off of my dad's name. Yeah, that doesn't shock us, right? I mean, this is part of the problem with people that are politicians for life. They're all loaded with this stuff, and they can give the image of being squeaky clean, and yet their family members rake in millions of dollars. I'll call it the everybody must wear a mask channel, CNN. I don't know if you caught Tucker Carlson yesterday with Chris Cuomo, the governor of New York's brother, repeatedly not wearing his mask to the point where the building that he lives in, and New York's a little different place. These buildings, they all have, especially if you're wealthy, right? You've got the doorman, and you've got a management company that, kind of like a HOA for us regular folk, that the building management, or HOA, if you will, had to send Cuomo's letter saying, please stop endangering everybody else, and they were going to start fining him if he didn't wear a mask. Yet he comes out on TV and tells everybody what a bad person you are if you don't. Of course, remember Nancy Pelosi going to the salon, right? All of this stuff, right? Do as I say, not as I do, and and it's the same on the right. Let's not just say it's just the left, right? The right does the same thing, and so we know, we understand, we get it, right? You're a bunch of hypocrites, all of you. I just wish that's what really. I think we need two things. Number one, we need to go back to a gold standard so they cannot devalue our money. Who gave them this right? I know I didn't vote for it. You didn't vote. No one voted for it. Well, I guess back in 1913 they did. Right? Of course, was the vote, was it legal? Well, they met in secret for years, wanting to make sure no one found out. Now, who is they? The Rothschilds, right? You know all the Warburgs, which was the big power in Germany, the big family in Germany, the Rockefellers. They were all there, every one of them, and stocking the Congress with their candidates, whether it was the brother-in-law, a sister-in-law, a cousin, a niece, a nephew, didn't matter. They got their family members in, or close personal friends of their family, to vote in for this central bank that now openly just comes out and tells everybody day after day and week after week, we need to devalue the currency. Now, they don't say it like that, because if they said it like that, you may pay attention. Of course, by the time they're done dumbing down our children, it's all going to be so easy, isn't it? That's why you call, but allamericangold.com. There's hardly anything on there. Maybe an article every other day that we talk about. So when you think about it, we got videos, articles that we hardly talk about. Go out there, get yourself educated, understand what's really happening. Right? And that's a hard thing to do anymore, right? Because the media now wants to block us. Right? They want to block everything that they don't think you should know. Oh, well, that paints us in a bad light. Block, right? This is what happened to the home of the brave, the land of the free. What happened to this? Right now we cower in fear, and we allow for all of our freedoms to be taken away. And nobody says, well, hardly anybody says a word. We got the last presidential debate today. Kind of feels like we've been cheated too, right? Couldn't have been any better for the Democrats. First of all, right, we only had two, far less than normal. This is how bad Joe Biden has not campaigned. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but he had to rest up. That ought to tell you something. I'm getting very nervous. I still, you know what, I'm telling you right now, they're doing all they can to try to convince you this is a landslide. It's not. Not by a long shot. So we'll see how it goes tonight. I guess we got a mute button now, right? All of these things, let's try to, make it fair. And, of course, by fair, they really mean let's make sure that we have an advantage. I don't know. We've gone, how many years now? 250 something. I forget how old the country is, but without one of these. But now we've got to have one. Of course, it's only because Joe Biden doesn't have the chops. Let's just call it what it is. That's why. Patriot Radio News Hour. When we get back, we're going to be talking about the jobless claims number. I know, get the calculator out because it's a complicated one. We'll be right back. 800-951-0592. Before we get, we're going to talk about jobless claims today. And again, if they could make it more complicated, but I'll simplify it for you. Don't worry. And the Federal Reserve yesterday, now it's so funny. Here they are, all of these Federal Reserve governors and Jay Powell himself, they've been out on TV a million times. Okay, not a million, but almost every single day for weeks. And yet they've never brought this up. How bad is it? For those of you that have a lot of money in your bank accounts, you're going to want to pay attention. Because yesterday, the central bank, they didn't go on TV and say it. Oh, no. No, they won't do that. They'll have an IMF meeting and talk about digital currencies. No, instead, I guess I should be happy that at least they still feel obligated to tell the truth. They just won't say it publicly. So they actually released 2 different press releases that nobody reported on, conveniently. But I'll tell you what they had to say. All of those things are coming up. But I meant to say this and I forgot. Big news for 1360 KHNC, obviously the radio station in Colorado that we own. We have formed an alliance with My Kind. My Kind is a CBD company based in Colorado. All of the product, the marijuana, grown in Colorado, all the processing, all the labs, everything done in Colorado. In the next 24 to 36 hours, and actually in the next, say, 4 to 36 hours, so hopefully by this afternoon, we will have a shopping cart available on the 1360 website, 1360khnc.com, where we will be promoting the CBD products in alliance with My Kind. We will have the cheapest price in the country. We'll actually be selling it for less than My Kind sells it on their website. This is 100% pure, all organic. They use no pesticides, no heavy metals in their plant production. COAs for you people out there that are in that do take CBDs. This is the lab reports, full disclosure, everything that's in it, which is nothing. There is no marijuana in the products, so if you take the products and you fail a drug test, that's on you. Which, by the way, a lot of these things, when you shop for CBD online and these different milligrams and different strengths, you want to make sure you have all this. So something that's manufactured all here in the United States, and all of this in Colorado, the purity, all of those things, exactly what they say is in it, and the price. I'm just going to tell you right now, we're going to be running them on sale for the next probably 6 weeks leading up to the holidays here. The cheapest price in the country, and I don't care what brand it is, that you can make all of the following, all done here in the U.S. with all the independent lab results and all of those things. We have they've got pet products, human products, all of those different things. There's even coffee. Who knew CBD coffee? So all of that's coming to the 1360 website. So all of you that have taken CBD or take CBD, we're going to give you a better alternative at a much, much better price. And not to mention, for those of you, and I know because my wife and I have hemp-based, and Brian is sending me a text so I get it right, a hemp-based product. So the marijuana thing, it comes from the marijuana plant, but yeah, it's a hemp-based. There is no marijuana in the product. So excuse my ignorance on that, but they have been educating us, so I should be a little better at it. Nonetheless, my wife and I, we're always looking for healthier alternatives, right? Than taking, you don't want to be taking Advil every day or leave every day or whatever it may be. And man, it's expensive. You go to these CBD stores, it's wildly expensive, and so you don't know. So you buy a lower strength because it's a little less money. But now you can buy the good stuff here at a price that's super affordable. So look forward to that. And I'll talk more about it tomorrow as well. But I just wanted to get that in there for you because we're really, really excited about it. It's going to be great for the radio station. But more importantly, it's what we're all about here, supporting like-minded people, supporting other small businesses. So that's coming to you. Jobless claims. Very interesting number today. They came out, and the number was 787,000, which that's a lot lower than it's been, right? We've been in the eights, right? The 860-ish number ever since they changed the way they counted. And I was like, hey, it's hard to say that's a good number, right? I mean, not really. I mean, the same week last year, it was like 180-some thousand or 200,000. I think it was 189,000. The previous all-time record high before the pandemic hit was all the way back in the 80s. And I think it had to do with some big strikes and whatnot. But it was like 660,000, something about over 100,000 less than what this number is, and we're kind of saying, hey, it's a better number. Here's the problem. That wasn't the real number. I want it to be. But apparently, all the layoffs, remember the layoffs that we have been talking about? The airline industry, Disney, the government, because what they did is they're furloughed. They're furloughed. In other words, hey, you're not laid off. We're just asking to take a break. Right? You don't get paid, but that number over the last 2 weeks has risen by 1 million people. I think last week alone it was almost 400,000. So it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. So you lied to us the last couple of weeks. You didn't put it all together where you said, well, we want to count these people differently. And the government wants to count a lot of people differently now. So now we have 3 different. I know it's hard. It's complicated. Heaven forbid we've got to add 3 numbers together. I mean, if you lived in the San Diego School District, you may not be able to do that because it's racist. How dare you make me add 3 numbers together? So the government came out 787. That's what you heard on the headlines. Oh, look, it's great. It's better. It is better. But that really wasn't the number. And then they said continuing claims fell by 1 million people. It's kind of funny. The exact same number that ended up in this other program over the last couple of weeks. But don't worry. This is what I'm here for. Before they dumbed down the education system, apparently I was able to complete. This was probably, if I was guessing, this is third grade math. Right? Third grade math. Adding. Maybe even second grade. If you're really smart, you probably pulled this off in second grade. So I added up all these numbers together. So jobless claims last week, they said 787. It was actually 1.141 million. So obviously significantly higher than what they wanted to tell you. Then they said that the continuing claims number fell dramatically. Below 9 million seasonally adjusted, of course, right? And what does that mean? We don't know. I thought they got rid of the seasonal. I don't know. But that's what they said. 9,397,000 people. Well, again, there's that hard little thing. It's called math. Government's got another program, a third program, where they hide all the other people that don't have a job. If you add them together, the total comes out to, well, it's a little more than 9 million. And I know that upsets everybody. It was 23,150,477. And then if you add the other 1.1 million today, we're at 24,250,000. And remember, this number, listen, that's actually an improvement. I don't want to mislead you. This number 6 weeks ago was about 30 million. So we've improved about 6 million. It's pretty good. I mean, when you shut down the whole economy, this is the kind of things that happen. But when you get the full scope of it, most states, Arizona, even Arizona, which we have done better than most, but our unemployment rate's like 5 and change, like 5.5%. It's almost double what it used to be. And that's really kind of, when you look at it, what's happened with the real unemployment rate. Well, here's the problem: we don't know. Because the government wants to tell you that the unemployment rate's, somewhere around 7% now, but they don't want to count it all. But even the best states, Arizona and Colorado, two of the best states, and these are states, obviously, our radio show's live in these states. We follow these states very carefully. Both states, the unemployment rate is double what it was before COVID. And we're two of the best. So think about what it is in California. Think about what it is in New York and all of these other states. You're probably looking at 4 times higher. But nonetheless, that was the number. Listen, I'm just pointing it out to you. Do with it as you wish. All the moratoriums still in place. We'll have to wait and see. Today, stimulus talk. Nancy Pelosi said, hey, we're getting closer, but the Republicans, they probably won't pass the bill in the Senate. The president tweeted out that he doesn't think that Nancy Pelosi and Chucky Schumer are going to make a deal happen. That has the Dow down, that has gold down, the dollar. I don't know why the dollar goes higher with no stimulus, but that's kind of what not much, but it's up a little bit. Gold's down about $20, silver's down about 50 cents. Now tomorrow we'll probably get stimulus news. We'll be right back. But that was really the tweet from the president today. And again, remember last week he tweeted that he was done negotiating. We're getting a deal. Here's the thing. Make sure you bought before the deal. Gold will break out of this range and be heading higher. So will silver. As soon as they announce that there is a deal in place, it'll go again when they actually pass the deal, and probably again when the checks show up. Got to remember, they got to save Christmas. You know, and I know they're trying to put the positive spin on it, but it's going to take, let's just say they approve it, I don't know, Monday. Okay, so Monday, Pelosi and Mnuchin say we've reached a deal. Then they've got to write it, and then they've got to vote on it. It probably won't get done until that weekend, right? Maybe one of those emergency weekend sessions. That's if they go really, really fast and Mitch McConnell and the Republicans don't hold it up. Then for everybody to get their money, that's going to take another 3 weeks. So you can see, hey, we're getting right up towards the end of November if they act. Now, if they wait till the election, which they may, then those are going to be right up against that Christmas deadline. How healthy are the banks? And I know we've got the presidential debate and the election and, you know, riots and laptops and masks and lockdowns and second waves, third waves, right? We got all this stuff. But does any of it matter if the institutions that hold your money are insolvent? I mean, really? And think about it. Any of these banks go under, it's over. We know this. They're massive. It's the stupidest plan anybody. It's almost as dumb as the San Diego school district yesterday. Grades are racist. You know what? We're not even going to count all these tests. I don't know what tests they're going to count, but the early tests don't count. You don't have to turn in your homework, and you don't have to behave in class. Because those are all racist things, right? Somehow that's going to make them better students. Come on. Stupidity. And this is what we have. But it's not done on accident. This is done on purpose. Because it was the only way to keep the Ponzi scheme going. They have to make it bigger. Right? And I've been educating all of you for how long? The only way to make this thing better and big, the debt's got to be what? It's got to get bigger. That's how it works. And then it has to be somehow worth more. But we all know at a certain point when it gets so big, all of a sudden it's worth less. Not worth less, worth less. And this is what we're facing. Two of them, these two are becoming my favorite people. Pam and Russ Martins. They write I'll call it a blog, for lack of a better term, the Wall Street on Parade. If you don't follow it, start following it. Start reading, start educating yourself. They're talking about yesterday, the Federal Reserve issued 2 press releases. And I'm thinking about, you just testified in front of Congress a couple weeks ago. Heck, Jay Powell's been on the Today Show. Yesterday, O'Leil, who if Biden wins is going to apparently be the new Treasury Secretary, she was on CNBC. She didn't even talk about any press releases. I mean, you would have thought, hey, let me come in and tell you about what's happening here. Oh, no. No, what did she talk about? Hey, we need more debt. That's what she talked about. Yep, we need you guys to help the little people because we can't help the little people. We can only help the big people. The first press release, and I'll give you the title, Agencies Finalize Rule to Reduce the Impact of Large Bank Failures. Now, the first thing that pops into my head is, I thought you already did that. Right? Did we forget about too big to fail? And we put all these rules in place to make sure. We're supposed to have this great plan that somehow we could have a major financial institution go under and not affect the other financial institutions. Because here's the problem. These guys are a bunch of liars. I hate to say it. It's true. These banks buy each other's garbage every day. Hey, you buy my garbage, I'll buy your garbage. Wink, wink, nod, nod. They lie about loan loss reserves. Just like I told you in the third quarter they were going to lie, and they did. Miraculously, I don't care how you slice it. You got 23 million people out of work, and they're saying that they're not having any losses? Okay, sure, if you want to believe that. Right? Maybe all the THC that my kind takes out of the products, maybe that's what the Fed's smoking. I don't know. So apparently, the rules that they wrote for Dodd-Frank too big to fail, they weren't good enough. They've had to change the rule. Now, they didn't tell anybody, but that's why I'm here. I'm here to tell you. How bad is it that you realize, we got another. Now, you didn't say that when you testified in front of Congress. Matter of fact, you've been telling everybody that the banks have been a source of strength. You remember Baghdad Bob? Remember him? Right there in the Iraq War. And he'd come out on TV every day and try to tell the Iraqis how they were winning the war. Right? Same thing. Right? Jay Powell's Baghdad Bob. Oh, no, the banks are a source of strength. Nobody believes that. That cannot be true. See, that's the part that makes it so hard, because we know it's not true. Now, here's the problem. That wasn't the only press release. Well, they issued another one. Agencies issue final rule. Well, this is a final one now. So, obviously, first of all, what happened to the rule again? Well, we've made another change, but what was this rule about? This one's the final one, though. They promised, because they used the word final, to strengthen resilience of large banks. Now, when you read that, you're like, oh, yeah, that's a good thing. Final rule to strengthen the resilience. What does that mean? Well, what it means is, hey, these banks got problems. Right? They're not strong enough. They're not a source of strength. I mean, I didn't use the word. Jay Powell used the word source of strength. And yet we needed a final rule to strengthen the resilience. Now let's go to the first press release. What is that all about? See, in 2008, when Lehman went under, right, Citigroup, AIG, Merrill Lynch, right, we had the daisy chain of events. They came up with this thing, you may remember it, they called it TLAC, T-L-A-C, which was the total loss absorbing capacity. In other words, the central bank was like, hey, we've got to come up with a way to cover all the losses of these banks so it doesn't spread to other banks. Sounds logical. Now, of course, the easy solution is, hey, let's make them a lot smaller so that way it's manageable. I'll tell you why they had to write new rules when we return. We've been played. We've put our full faith and trust into this central bank, whose job it was, at least initially, was to regulate banks. But now it's stable dollar, stably heading down. right? I guess we can give them that, right? They've done a stable job of devaluing. Let's give them props for that. In full unemployment, we couldn't do that part, so we just changed the way we counted it. But, if you use our new methodology, we're, obviously, pandemic aside. Well, here's what these sneaky criminal people did. So instead of breaking up these banks, because, there used to be laws about how big banks could be because of this issue. See, they were smart once. They've doubled themselves down. Right? They used to say, hey, you couldn't be more than a regional bank. I always use the Diamondbacks as a great example. Bank One Ballpark. Remember Bank One? Nobody hardly does. They weren't here very long. Before that, though, Bank One, it was Valley National Bank. A lot of you old timers here, you remember Valley National Bank. That was a big bank here in Arizona. Well, when they changed the laws, it got bought out by Bank One, who got bought out by, I think it's J.P. Morgan now. Buyout after buyout after buyout. The ballparks had like 4 different names. But they allowed for these banks to become so massive that's created this problem that they keep trying to tell us they've solved. So they came up with TLAC, which essentially was the banks had to sell insurance on their loans. That's essentially it. Apparently, when they wrote the rules, they didn't sleep at a Holiday Inn because they didn't do a very good job, because here's what happened. The bank said, oh, okay, sure. And they just bought their own insurance. They sold it to themselves. Which essentially defeats the entire purpose altogether. And what the Fed found out is when they really dug into it, all the banks did was either they bought their own or bought each other's. They actually never sold it to anybody. Because they were supposed to use that insurance money when and if the bank went under to recapitalize the bank. In other words, as I told you all along, they don't have the money in the FDIC insurance. If any of the 10 largest banks in the United States go under, they don't have the money. They're 10. Probably don't have enough money even if the 100th largest bank went under. But this was part of how they were going to recapitalize, make you whole without having to use a bailout. Now they found out, whoops. But here's the moronic part. They did it on their loans at face value, not on the derivatives, which is where the problem really is. I mean, as an example, loans from J.P. Morgan Chase in credit default swaps at the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, they issued $612 billion worth of loans. They sold insurance on $597 billion of it. Now, we don't know how much they bought of it, but, probably to themselves. J.P. Morgan Chase has $55 trillion in derivatives. Guess where that sits? Yeah. Right on the hook of the taxpayer. See, so they tried to make it appear that they were helping us, and even then, the banks bamboozled them, and now it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But even the law itself doesn't address the problem. And then the second part of the law, this has to do with liquidity. By the way, the Federal Reserve today fined J.P. Morgan $154 million. Was it million? Yeah, I think it was million. $154 million. Remember, they got a $2 billion fine from the Department of Justice. I'm still waiting for the language from the Fed. I haven't seen it, if there's liquidity issues there. But when they talked about the strengths of the bank under Dodd-Frank, again, right? They were saying that, the bank has to hold X amount of their loans and they got to do all of these things. But the second part was the Fed was going to further degrade the safeguards that they told us they were trying to protect. And they used good old Lael Brainard, who cast the only dissenting vote to finalize the rules that will drastically reduce the liquidity held by the largest banks. In other words, the Federal Reserve is trying to play games with your money. They're going to allow for the banks to get rid of all the liquidity so they don't have to look like they're insolvent, which means if they really go under, they got nothing. If there's a run on a bank, they won't have the money. Remember why the Fed had to start buying the bonds, right? The banks were running out of money. They're like, hey, we have to buy all this treasury debt. And now we're finding out today that the Fed had a press release, it was today or yesterday, that last night or this morning, saying, hey, two things. Number one, this insurance thing that we told the banks to buy, they manipulated it. And then number two, we're going to allow them to drain their liquidity because they don't have enough money. I mean, that's really what it is, right? They don't have enough money set aside for loan losses. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up. So here's what we learned today. The banks really didn't sell insurance. So if they go under, they can be recapitalized. Then we learned the liquidity requirements have been loosened. And what that means is, remember, the problem before was the banks didn't have enough of high-quality debt. And so they came up with this Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 thing, right? And the Tier 1, that's pretty much U.S. Treasuries, right? Maybe Apple. But yesterday or last night, this morning, the central bank with only one dissenter is now going to allow for the banks to carry less quality credit. In other words, all the credit they're holding is getting ready to get what? Whacked. A lot of stuff that was Tier 1 is probably going into Tier 2, and a whole lot of Tier 2 is going into that Tier 3 pile, and that Tier 3 pile is going into bankruptcy. It's an absolute slap in the face. It is totally, once again, hey, we made these rules, and, oh, never mind. Forget it. Well, you can't comply, so let's just change them again. And let's not tell anybody. Definitely don't go on TV and tell anybody. It's absolutely ridiculous, but it's just another reason why you keep, you keep what you need to in the bank, but don't keep more than that. Don't keep more than that. Look how fast it went the last time. Right? We went from this crazy housing market to everybody's out of business in less than 2 years. I mean, that's what happened. It's going to happen again. That's how we'll get the electronic currency. I'm sure of it. Today's special, it's a great one again. U.S. $5 Liberties got a nice pullback. Gold's at 1,900. I got about a little over 100, so I got quite a few of them. 560. Again, this is about as low as they've been, right? We've been 560. Every time there's a nice pullback, we get in that 560 range. 1 through 19, 560. I'll incentivize. If you buy 20 or more, 555. That puts that 4 5s at only $65 over a 20, which is, it never gets that close. That is super. Usually, if it's $100 or less, I say buy it, right? Hey, if it's four 5s are only $100 more than a 20, that's a pretty good buy. Today, even at 560, you're looking at $85 over. So 4 of them would be $85 more than a 20. If you buy 20 or more, you take it all the way down to $65, which is about as close as I can remember it being in a long, long time. Because the 5s, you never get like the 10s. Sometimes you can sell 10s for less, and a lot of times you can sell them for the same price. That never happens in the $5 market. Essentially, look at it this way. You're paying about $16 to $20 per coin to fractionalize it, depending on if you buy it in quantity or not. So U.S. $5 Liberties, these are the quarter-ounce gold pieces, 560, 1 through 19, 20 or more at 555 at 800-951-0592. We got one more. Here's the great news. Today's Thursday. That means tomorrow's Friday. You know what that means. God bless everybody, and we'll see y'all tomorrow.